Tim McCormick. Thank you.
You saved Pilar, Tim. You saved her.
Yes.
Sorry about the delay.
That's okay, man.
You're all right.
Everything cool?
Wait, Tim, can you actually turn the phone sideways so we can get you all in the whole? There you go.
Looking good, my man.
There you go. All right. Well, welcome to the show, Tim. Thanks so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you. Tim, I guess my big question right now is, what is going on, and how do you think this whole COVID thing is going to affect the big tournament, the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I hope there's no effect. And it's my favorite month of the year. And what we're seeing is that I just feel like the NBA has set such a great standard, and the NCAA has unbelievable restrictions. It's very much like the Orlando bubble last summer. Mm-hmm. The NCAA is going through the same thing. And I was mentioning the other day that, let's say, for instance, Michigan goes to the Final Four. If you include the Big Ten tournament, they will be there for 26 straight days. And just imagine, sometimes when you're on the road and you're in a hotel for 2 or 3 days, you get a little stir crazy. Imagine being in a sterile hotel room. You probably got a roommate. There's clothes all over the place, video games. I just think that it's so unprecedented, and I'm so anxious for it. Not only are the players isolated, I think that's a real tough one from a mental wellness standpoint. But I also think that the players and the fans alike are so anxious because we missed out last year.
Oh, absolutely.
Tim Darren McCarty, thank you for joining us here on The Hook. Big fan as always. But obviously talk about these Michigan Wolverines, because I look at what you said about the mentality and the mental toughness this year for somebody to go deep in the tournament to even win it. I look at this Michigan Wolverines team and what Juwan Howard's done, and it's not about the wins and losses. It's about the mentality this team has going into the playoffs. So the Big Ten championship didn't go the way they wanted, obviously, but how does this team look to you going into this tournament?
Well, if you could tell me Isaiah Livers is going to play, I'd feel a lot better.
Well, we all would.
We all would.
They're so connected on defense. That's their number one strength. And they've got a true inside-outside presence with Hunter Dickinson in the paint. I think they've got plenty of role players. There's just going to be a time where I believe that Franz Wagner, who, just like his brother, has star power, and his brother took Michigan to a Final Four, and now's the time for Franz to stand up and be the best player in the building each and every game. He's so good defensively. And he has some alpha dog in him. So I think he's the most important guy, but they've got plenty of depth, and they have other guys that have star power as well. So matchup wise, I like it. I think that St. Bonaventure will beat LSU. Mm-hmm. I've broadcast St. Bonaventure 3 times already, and I know them well. And so you get by the first weekend. I'm just I didn't go to med school, but in the back of my mind, I feel like there's still a chance that Isaiah Livers could come back and play.
Timmy McCormick joins us, former number 1 pick in the NBA, played for Michigan, of course. Fox Sports Detroit, ESPN. Hey, Fox Sports Detroit is going to be Bally's Sports Detroit. I want to tell you about that another time, but that's going to be the new name of it. But Timmy, I love this team. I love their grit. I love how they came back against Ohio State. No Livers, Wagner on the bench, fouling out. They should have won that game. I didn't love the last play, but I understand they took out Dickinson out of that play. Good defense by Ohio State. I think 3 Big Ten teams can make the Final Four. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I look at Ohio State and Purdue as wild cards. Illinois is the favorite for sure, and a lot of people have them penciled into the Final Four. They had some bad losses this year, Penn State, Michigan State, a couple of others. So they do take a few nights off, but Illinois has been rock solid the last 3 weeks. I think that Illinois is by far the best Big Ten team. I would put Michigan there if Livers was playing. But beyond that, I really like E.J. Liddell in Ohio State. I think they defend hard. They know who the man is. Dwayne Washington is a pure scorer. And so I think that 3 out of 4 is a little bit high, but I do expect the Big Ten to show well.
Tim McCormick joins us here on The Hook on Woodward Sports Network. How about the Spartans tonight against UCLA? This is a play-in game. First of all, do you think it's an insult that they're in the play-in game? And secondly, who do you like in this game, Tim?
Well, first of all, I don't think they should call it a play-in game because everybody says that Michigan State is in. So I think it should be the first-round game or something else. UCLA has really good guards, and Michigan State has been really inconsistent with their play. I think Aaron Henry will be in the NBA next year, and Rocket Watts has all Big Ten potential, even though he's gone through a tough stretch this year. You know, one of the things about Michigan State is that their profile was so knocked down because of the fact that they went through that horrible stretch right out of COVID. And, you know, Darren can probably really relate to this. An athlete's body is their vehicle. And when something happens to a car, it doesn't drive as well. And I just feel like everybody was impacted in different ways by COVID. And you saw some players that clearly had a tough time with it because their bodies took a long time to get back. So when Michigan State came off their COVID, unlike Michigan didn't have any problems when they came right back. They went right to Madison and beat Wisconsin bad. None of Michigan's players during their pause actually had the virus. Michigan State, on the other hand, I think their whole team basically had it. So that's part of the reason Michigan State's profile was knocked down. I do think that they're a good team. I think Michigan State will beat UCLA. BYU might be a little bit more difficult. So I have Michigan State winning one and losing one.
That's what I personally like to hear. I don't want to see Michigan State getting too far. But Tim, can we go back to something you've said, and with Livers and his foot injury, you hope to see him back, but you don't really think he's coming back. In the Detroit Free Press, they said nobody's expecting him to come back, but everybody still feels if he does, it's going to be a miracle. But it sounds like you've got Illinois then moving into the big championship. Do you have any hope, or do you feel we should all just move forward with the fact that Isaiah Livers is not going to be coming back?
No, I think you should have hope. And actually, towards the end of my career, I broke my foot. But the experience that I had is I played for about 2 weeks with it, where I knew it wasn't right. It was really sore, and eventually it broke. But that's not how things were for Isaiah. He kept playing, and even the last game, he looked like he was moving okay, not great. And so I think that rather than a full stress fracture, he had a stress reaction. And once again, no med school, but from personal experience, I just have hopes that they're able to, for a good 2 full weeks, get a lot of treatment, a lot of ice, stay off of it, compression, the whole bit, and then give it a shot. And they already did pretty darn well with Eli Brooks. You know, they made it seem like he would never ever play again. And then all of a sudden, he had a really good game last outing. I have the same hopes for Isaiah.
Awesome. Tim, I was wondering if you could, for a minute, and from your perspective, because I always love it from either guys around the game or guys that have played, but Juwan Howard's impact and just what he's done at Michigan, I always try to relate it to that I can see that he's brought this NBA more mentality and culture, and you can see what he's learned under Spoelstra and under Pat Riley. What have you noticed as an analyst, as an NBA player, not as a doctor, because you're 2 of the 3. So what has impressed you the most?
So, Darren, one of the things that I enjoyed about your championship teams is that there was a clear culture, and everybody knew it. There was accountability, and there was a synergy. Everybody knew exactly what the goal was. And I played for Pat Riley with the Knicks, and so I know how important culture is to him. And Juwan was on his staff. Juwan played for him. He was under Juwan when he was in an administrative role as the team president. And so from day one, Juwan has built a culture where everybody is moving in the same direction. And I also think that culture is one of the most overused words in sports. Every new coach that takes over says we want to establish culture, but they don't walk the walk, and it doesn't really seem real, and it never happens. With Juwan Howard, he's built a real culture.
Well, here's the thing, too, though, Timmy, is that whose mouth does it come out of? Because Juwan Howard's been there, and if I talk about culture, it's the same thing as where you've walked in the places that you've walked in. It's like a lot of people use that lightly with nothing behind it, but you nailed it on the head because it's about accountability. And then, to me, that's what I see that the Wolverines basketball program has that the football program doesn't. So, but that's another conversation.
True. Very true.
Hey, Tim, I wanted to ask you about the Pistons. I watched them last night. Again, I'm enjoying this team. I love you on the broadcast, by the way. How about Sadiq Bey? A double-double for this guy. He's like a man-child. This guy could be an all-star pretty quickly. And tell us about the whole Piston rebuild.
Plum dog.
He's a beast, man. What do you take on this team?
So when I look at their roster, last year there were 22 players that wore the Pistons red, white, and blue over the course of the year. Sekou Doumbouya is the only guy left. I've never seen a pro sports roster demolished in 1 year so thoroughly. I give Troy Weaver a lot of credit, their GM. He has a vision, and he got rid of everybody that didn't fit it. He's eliminated the bad contracts. He got rid of the older players. Guys that didn't fit his system are no longer here. And so I like their team. Whereas last year I thought that the Pistons were offensively challenged and they did not pass the ball very well, and it was a stagnant, boring type of team to watch. This team plays hard, man. They get after it. They're aggressive. They pass the ball. I like their offense a lot better. And there's plenty of nights where I think, oh my gosh, where's the defense? But that's what happens when you've got, get this, 10 players that are under 24 years of age. That's unheard of in the NBA. Only Minnesota is younger, and by the trade deadline, it wouldn't surprise me if the Pistons passed them.
Oh my God! Last thing before we let you go, I want your Final Four and your champion.
Yeah, so like everybody, it seems like Gonzaga and Butler are the obvious choices. I've got a couple of extra ones. I've got West Virginia. I really like their toughness, and they've always been good defensively, but now they can shoot the ball too. And if I knew Isaiah Livers was going to be playing, I would pick Michigan, but I don't think he will. So I've got Florida State.
Wow.
Florida State.
So to win the whole thing, who do you have?
I've got
Illinois?
Gonzaga.
The Zags?
Yeah, I got Gonzaga. You know what? It's one of those things like you could pick Gonzaga to lose, but then you just hate yourself the whole rest of the tournament when they don't. So I self-preservation, that's how I made my picks this year.
Hey, I lied, Tim. I got one more thing for you. Juwan Howard against Mark Turgeon. Who do you got in a street fight? No, honestly, between those two guys, what do you think really happened?
With who?
Mark Turgeon against Juwan Howard. Maryland against Michigan in that Big Ten, one of those last games in the Big
brawl.
Ten. It was in the tournament.
I saw Chris Hunter and Jay Smith do everything in their power to try to hold him back, and thank God for Mark Turgeon that he did. That would have been one of the most massive mismatches that we've ever seen. I think that there's just some competitiveness, and there's some trash talking that went over regarding Hunter Dickinson's recruit. Dickinson went to DeMatha, which is 3 miles from Maryland's campus. He was a little bit mad, and on the way to 28 points in the first meeting, he gave Turgeon a dirty look every time he scored a bucket, and so I think that's probably where it started.
There it is. There it is, Matt.
There it is.
Thanks, Timmy.
Yes. Tim McCormick, everybody. Thank you so much, Tim, for joining us. It was a blast having you on. When we come back, Matthew Stafford's thank you, not goodbye to Detroit. So don't you guys go anywhere. You're tuning into The Hook on Woodward Sports Network.